Welcome back to Gruber Motor Company, our live podcast, the Auto Shop of the Future. We have Ben Gjeebs with us today, a local YouTuber with over 40,000 subscribers, mostly Tesla orientation. So join us as we discuss EV trends, competition, future challenges to EV adoption. So my first question for Ben is, what was the turning point that made you passionate about Tesla?
Well, I think before we get into that, I got to make a little transition out of respect.
All right.
Get the continuity going.
There we go.
Now we're locked in.
Fellow YouTuber with sunglasses. There we go.
Yep. So first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you to your team for having me out and showing me around the shop. I'll have a YouTube video that I'll release on my channel with everything we discussed today, so I'm excited to release that. But yeah, so what got me into into Tesla was I was in Hawaii for work. I was a medical device sales rep before doing YouTube full time. It was a Sunday, kind of walking around, had nothing to do. Went to the Tesla dealership, was looking at the Model 3 and talking to the salesman there, and he's like, "Hey man, if you have 2 hours, here's the key." I'm like, "Really? I can just..." I thought he was going to come with me. He goes, "No, just take it."
No kidding.
I'm like, okay. Jumped in the car. It was a Model 3 long range. And the second, I was through the parking garage, whatever. The second I got out onto the streets of Waikiki and took it up to the mountains, it was over. Couldn't believe just how peaceful it was in the car, but yet how exhilarating the acceleration was and the nimble handling of the car. It was just a totally different experience. And that is initially what got the gears turning in my head to go, okay, maybe this is something I'd like to own. And then I was making automotive content. I've been making content on YouTube since 2011. So I've been doing it for a while, and I felt, okay, something's amazing here about this. There's got to be other people like me that wonder, hey, what are these things like to drive? So I kind of bring the perspective of someone from a traditional manual transmission, loud exhaust, modding cars, giving them the experience of what it's like owning and driving a Tesla. So I have a 2020 Model Y long range right now.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, my son just came back from Hawaii on vacation, and he was saying the speed limits aren't exactly to his liking there. Did you find that to be the case too?
Yes, but what I will say about Hawaii, you don't feel the pressure to speed. It's like maybe 50, 55. I think it's rarely 65 or above. But everyone just kind of cruising there. I think because you realize you're all stuck on the island. Right. We're not going anywhere, so...
And there's plenty to see, plenty of scenery.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, lots to take in. Yeah.
Excellent. It's kind of like in Europe. The Autobahns are straight shots. So, unlimited speeds are wonderful there. But when I cruise through the Alps, I'm really more concerned about the visual candy that, is available.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the case in Hawaii. Yeah.
So you were also mentioning that you have a ICE engine car that you're pretty proud of. Maybe you can tell us about that and then discuss some of the differences between that and your Tesla experience.
Yeah, so I own a 2018 BMW M2. It's a manual transmission, Long Beach blue. It was just a dream car for me. It took me forever to find it. I finally found it from a guy in Utah. And it was a private sale, so you don't have to pay tax in Arizona on private car sales, which is a nice... not loophole, but I guess just law we have. And so, yeah, I absolutely love that car. The funny thing is, though, it's an M car, it's a performance car, and I don't drive it nearly as hard as I drive my Tesla because it can be loud. You might disturb the neighbors. You don't know what the cops are doing around here, things like that. So I know if I get in my Tesla to go to the grocery store, I'm winning every drag race at red lights. Right. I'm ripping around corners and just having fun. So it's interesting, having this performance-oriented car, and then I'm in, the family SUV driving around like I'm in an F1 race. So it is fascinating. But I love them both, and I think they can coexist. You can own both and be happy. Use your Tesla for your daily driving, boring driving. You can still enjoy an internal combustion engine at the track or on the weekends and things like that. But for air quality purposes, it's nice to be in something that's not directly polluting. I understand on the back end there's coal and everything like that. But it's fun owning both. I'll say that.
Yeah. I think one of the things I miss the most about the ICE cars was I've had some performance cars was, canyon carving and
Yes.
banging gears.
Yep.
And that sound that comes along with it. One of my favorite things to do in Sedona was, and I get up real early in the mornings, you would take my Viper up there, and I would go through Oak Creek Canyon at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning after some Starbucks, and the sound of that car would just reverberate and echo through Oak Creek Canyon.
Yes.
I was probably waking up a lot of people, but
okay.
it was okay for me.
Yeah, it's great. It's great for you. No, I agree. There's something that an EV can't replace that, but can still drive them side by side.
Yeah. So, what you do a lot of videos, yeah, YouTube videos, and I'm sure you have some interesting stories regarding what your readers or what your viewers find interesting. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, so my channel, I really didn't start making YouTube videos to be a Tesla channel. I bought my Model Y, and with that being a fairly affordable family SUV with good range and good power, it became what people were referring to as a Tesla channel. I now make almost exclusively Tesla content, but I will still review ICE cars and do that. The interesting thing with my channel is I will see comments where I will get emails too from angry viewers who will say, "I'm not subscribing to you until you sell your M2," or I would subscribe to this channel, but you give no information. And it's like, I give information. I'm just not, I'm not going to fake being a technical person.
Right.
So that's where someone like you comes in. We collaborate. You give the information, and I provide different types of entertainment. So, yeah, it's just the nasty. You get the nasty comments, but you can't. I don't spend all day looking at that. I can't. It just wear you down. It's like eating junk food. I know if I look into the comments, go deep into the comments on a video, and I find a couple that are mean, like, you do take it personally. You're creating something. And then they're just tearing it down. But at the end of the day, I'm putting myself out there and creating, and they're just typing on a keyboard. So can't take it personally.
Well, for those of you looking for technical content on Ben's channel, this morning we did a video throughout Gruber Motor Company, and it was purely technical stuff.
Right.
Things that you were saying your readers or your viewers would normally not be able to see.
Yes, so maybe we'll gain some subscribers from me bringing that content to them.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's just fascinating what you guys are doing here, because I just don't have that background, and to see that is just so different to me.
So we hit some of the questions earlier. For example, how long will my battery in that Tesla last? And as I had mentioned, we're really writing the book right now on the lifespan of these batteries. As J.B. Strobel pointed out, the lifespan of a Tesla Roadster battery was 10 years, was a design life. And here we are going 13 years, and many of them are still going strong. We can extrapolate that to the Tesla Model S, which uses the same type of 18650 cells, at least the geometry. And we're starting to see the 8-year-old cars still performing well. Most of the problems that we see, the battery problems, are usually aberrations where a cell has gone bad. When you factor in the small number of problem cars versus the installed base out there, it's well in favor of having continued lifespan for those batteries.
Yeah, and I think, and like we discussed earlier, that's the question that I get from my friends or from viewers or family or whoever. They're interested in Tesla. They say, well, what about the battery? Is that what happens if it breaks or what? And I think the negative news to get, like you said, the install base is so massive, but the news will pick up the 5 out of 100,000 that went wrong, and that's what sells. So, yeah, I think for the most part, first of all, as far as how long are the batteries going to last? Yeah, we don't know. Because like you're discovering with the Roadsters, the 10 years, and you're at 13 years now with some of them. So yeah, there's just a lot of speculation out there. So that's why I was interested to ask you that, to see what you know, and you running this whole company and saying, hey, a lot of this is speculation, unless you talk to the Twitter engineers. Everyone on Twitter has an engineering degree from MIT.
Oh, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I just found that out.
Seemingly.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I don't discuss charging other than with the Roadster. There are so many differing opinions, conflicting information, even from Tesla. The engineering staff will say one thing, and Elon has another version of what the best charging methods are.
Yeah.
What we do know in the Roadster world, based on the fact that we work on the packs and we stress test them to flush out in a marginal cells, extremes are to be avoided. In the legacy Roadster packs, for example, we recommend don't go below 30 miles range, and stop doing full charges if you've ever even done that. That ideal or that 80% charge is the best way to charge. With the Model S, our opinion on that is supercharging is highly convenient, but it comes at a price. When you're moving that many electrons that quickly, it tends to take a toll on the batteries eventually. So, your thoughts on Lucid and some of the rising EV players?
Yeah. So I've.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
We're a customer-oriented organization. I usually don't turn on
Business
my phone.
doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So I've driven the Mustang Mach-E, did some videos on that. I was just in the Lucid dealership in Scottsdale Fashion Square, just wanted to see it, and they have test drives coming up. I think I should be able to get a test drive here soon. And then I've driven the Porsche Taycan as well. So I've been able to experience a lot of the other cars, and I just think it's great that competition is happening, because that's going to make people work harder. That's going to drive innovation, and eventually, lead to having, for what I want to see is, lightweight, fun to drive EVs.
Right.
So I think it's a good thing. I know the Tesla community likes to say that, they like to stand behind Elon and say, we want a green future and EVs and batteries are the future. And I agree, it is the future. Except the second I post a video on the Mustang Mach-E, which I tried to be as neutral as possible, and some people were writing, how much did Ford pay you to make this video? And and it's like, instead of just being like, hey, Ford put a car on the road that can get 300 miles of range, and it doesn't pollute, and that's the goal. So why are we bashing it? It's like, I don't know, it's different than like AMG versus M, where, you say, oh, this has more horsepower, this is a faster 0 to 60, whereas they're saying, you should never buy Ford, or that they revert back to the charging network. But overall, I just think it's exciting. I mean, Lucid's right here in our backyard. They're in Casa Grande, the huge production facility.
Right.
So I think it's exciting to see what other companies' renditions of EVs are in comparison to Tesla, which is, in my opinion, the leader right now.
Yeah, we'll get variety and choice, but the overall objective, which is well articulated by even Elon, is to replace every ICE vehicle on this planet.
Yeah. And I hope, me personally, I hope that doesn't... I think there will always be a place for ICE vehicles and the enthusiasts at the racetrack and things like that. I think that's important. But yeah, I think that's where people also get triggered and say, oh, I'd never drive an electric vehicle. That's how I used to be. I wish I could remember why. I just thought that Teslas had no personality to them. I thought they were bland.
Right.
But the driving experience is what I tell. I mean, that's why they give you the key card and say go.
Right.
Because they know how good it is to drive and how shockingly different it is. So it's very smart of them to do that. I don't even remember what the initial question was. I just went on a tangent.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
The competition. Yeah, I think it's good to have the competition, no doubt. It'll be interesting to see. So what do you think about this? Everyone always asks, Tesla had the foresight to put in a charging network. So you have the supercharging network all around the world, and that's a huge selling point. That's their main competitive advantage, in my opinion.
Right.
And everyone thinks, oh, well, Tesla should open that up to everyone else. In my opinion, I'm like, well, they had the foresight to do that. So why would they give up their big competitive advantage to other manufacturers? Do you have an opinion on that? Or what
I do. There are actually two things that Tesla was brilliant in execution. they control the sales channel, one,
Yep.
which is unprecedented in the automotive world. And secondly, they realized their cars would not sell unless they provided fuel. They provided a charging method. The third thing is, being a businessman, there's an enormous revenue-generating opportunity in that charging network. When you consider that the other EV manufacturers do not have the infrastructure, and that they're going to be reliant on someone that does, you can monetize that charging network, and you can begin to defray some of these costs. What I'd like to see Tesla do is develop these charging networks into a full service type operation, just like your local QT. You can get a hot dog, you can get chips, you can get clothing, you can get drinks, you can get lottery tickets. I mean, you name it, and become a one-stop shop for that traveler, even combining them with various types of restaurants.
Yeah.
They're currently putting them into strip malls where, that kind of infrastructure exists. But again, if you control the entire operation, I think there's a lot of money to be made in that sort of an approach. And again, it serves the larger purpose, which is to convert to EVs from ICE vehicles.
Yeah, you make that transition as seamless as possible.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Now, the thing I'm concerned about is you have these companies that are ramping up production.
Yeah.
Lucid, for example. Where's their service network? That was another thing that Tesla did well. They realized they had to make a huge investment in a service delivery system. And I'm concerned about these other manufacturers. Ford, of course, and GM, the existing legacy companies already have dealer networks. My concern there would be, do they have the staff? Are they trained? Will they be able to work on EVs? And that's a whole different discussion. But the new companies that are joining the EV race, that's going to be an expensive proposition to develop that service delivery.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just the retraining alone is 10, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of time and effort. Yeah.
And for us as an independent service organization, I think there's a gold rush opportunity for companies like us.
Oh, yeah.
Because these manufacturers are going to outsource. They're going to look for companies that have related experience. They're not going to go to your local ICE, mechanic shop because they don't have the skills.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like if you bought, if you bought an old Mercedes or something, there's, in cities, there will be a shop that just says Mercedes repair. It's not Mercedes-Benz, it's a third party. And that could be where Gruber is in the future. That's where Gruber is right now with the Roadsters. So yeah, you're right. That is how it's going to roll out with those out-of-warranty models.
Even some of the Tesla old-timers that we're in communication with freely admit that an auto manufacturer typically begins to have difficulty supporting their legacy vehicles for a number of reasons. They're focused on new product. They're focused, their whole infrastructure is geared toward that. Where the service success begins to occur is in the aftermarket providers. Companies that specialize in, even the old ICE type vehicles, whether it's Mopar, whether it's Chevy, whether it's 60s muscle cars.
Yeah.
And again, I think there's a huge opportunity there because there will be a void for service delivery from the manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we haven't run out of things to talk about, have we?
I don't think so.
All right, ask me something then.
Well, we got so let's bring up the new Roadster.
Okay.
You have this article pulled up. They announced this, I think, in 2017.
Yeah,
and here we are.
Your date's like 2021. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you look at it from their perspective. There are a lot of challenges. There's a lot of production space under construction, and of course, then you have the social problems from COVID to the economy and the aftermath of a COVID situation. I think a lot of things are being delayed. Now you have disruptions in supply chain.
Yeah.
One of our managers certainly not a Biden fan. But he showed me pictures of all of these ships on the ocean that are loaded up with sea containers that can't get processed because they can't, process them at the port of calls.
Oh, because there's not enough employees at the port because they're all sick. Oh, gee, yeah, wow.
We're running into the same problem. I've got a building, our Gruber Motor Company expansion building. Every contractor I call that I'm used to working with tells me the same thing. I don't have any employees anymore. They're sitting home collecting unemployment.
Yeah.
And so they're servicing their steady customers, not the ones like me that come along every 3 to 4 years with a project for them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so in their own business, that makes sense, but then it's tough for you where you don't need it all the time. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just excited. It's exciting to see what like these new in Texas, the Gigafactory that they're in Berlin, the new shells of the cars. You're going to be like 400 pounds lighter. The new Model Y will be. Right. And just having lightweight, that adds range to the car. And then the 4680 cells. And when I say 4680, and then what the other one is 2170?
2170, 1860, 650, but 1865.
Okay, so and I don't understand what I'm saying. What does that mean?
Oh, it's a dimension of the battery, 18 millimeters by 65 millimeters.
Okay.
And then extrapolate that out to the other sizes.
Got it. Yeah. See, there's all these things that I don't even research when I'm doing my videos because it's just how the car drives, what's the charging network, and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to see the cars get lighter and then become more efficient because of the lightness and then the new batteries. It's going to be exciting. This past summer, I drove from Arizona back to Pittsburgh, where I grew up, and it's amazing. You drive through the middle of the country, and it's you type in the navigation of where to go. It has all your superchargers lined up for you. And at these supercharger stops in Texas, Missouri, Illinois, wherever, I had several like truckers. One guy got out of his dump truck, like parked in front of the superchargers, and I was like, "Oh no, what's he gonna say?" Yeah. And he was like, "Hey man, how long does it take to charge one of these things?" And like, so the interest is crazy out there in the middle of the country in places you'd never expect it. From demographics of people varying from the richest people in the world to, someone at a fast food restaurant who's 18 years old. And the other thing is interesting is I can drive my M2 up the road and let's say there's a kid with their parents at a stoplight. The kid never looks at the car, but the parent might look. If I'm in my Tesla and there's like 5-year-olds out on the curb, they're pointing, they're looking. I've never seen that type of interest from a kid. Right. So when I was growing up, having like a Lamborghini Diablo or Lamborghini Countach, that's what you had on your wall. That's what you wanted.
Along with Farrah Fawcett Majors, right?
That's right. Correct. And so it's interesting to see the change of kids probably have Teslas on their wall or Teslas as Hot Wheels and things like that. So the revolution that they've begun, and like we also said earlier, I think one of the smartest things Tesla did was making these cars fast. Yeah. I think a lot of people that own Teslas, they didn't care about their car before. It was just they drove their Camry to work. It was efficient, it was spacious, and that was that. Now that there's these cars that are, they have an iPad in the middle of it, and with the software update, you can reduce your 0 to 60 time by a half second. I just think it's a totally different group of people you've attracted to the car community that eventually when everyone's driving an EV, it's going to be even more popular than the car community already is. So yeah, it's fascinating. It's cool to watch you guys work on the Roadsters and letting me drive that today to see where Tesla started.
You enjoyed that?
Oh, I love that. I mean, for anyone that hasn't driven a Tesla Roadster, the original one, it's a raw experience. We were talking about, it's almost felt like I drove a Ferrari 308, which you owned years ago, and it has that type of feel. There's no power steering. There's actually a shifter. There's an e-brake. It's a very visceral feeling, accelerating, but at the end of the day, it's a Tesla. It's the immediate torque, it's the immediate power that you get. very fun to drive. And it was amazing to know that they were still getting 200 miles of range, or 240 or whatever they were rated at.
And that was mostly due to a calculation by the original founder of Tesla, Martin Eberhard, Mark Tarpenning, that they could replace or tried to replace these batteries with lithium-ion cells, which at that time were being used mostly in laptops. And what inspired really Tesla, the original founders, was an experience with a car called a T0, which was made by AC Propulsion Systems.
Okay.
Still around in San Dimas, California. Al Caccione got a federal grant to build 3 sports cars, electric sports cars. And they picked a Piontek body, which is a fiberglass body, made it fairly light. The batteries they used, however, were the Optima spiral wound, lead acid, or AGM, absorbent glass mat batteries, but still lead acid. And they put 14 of them in the car, 6 on each side in the doors, and then 4 underneath the PEM. Does that come out to 14? 16, sorry. 16. I just did the math. Yeah. I'm an engineer, right? So anyway, we had one of those, by the way, and it went up in a fire, sadly, but it was an iconic car. The 2 people that test drove that car were, of course, Mark and Martin, and then Elon. And talk about a visceral, palpable feel, the seat of your pants feeling. This was a car that could actually trounce the Lambos and Ferraris of the time in 1997 at the racetrack. And that's really what inspired Tesla, was that level of performance. The other brilliant thing they did was they weren't large enough to build car bodies, like they do now, the Model S, Y, sexy cars.
Yeah.
That's a major investment in tooling. So they went to an established manufacturer, went to Lotus, and they went on contract to buy 2,400 gliders, or empty shells. Well, Lotus is used to making fun, colorful sports cars, and to compete with the Italian exotics. So here now they had a car body that screamed performance and sports car, and they were electrifying these things. In a conversation with, actually I talked to Martin about 2 months ago or so, he was saying that the original Tesla Roadster was using the AC propulsion drivetrain, which was a analog drivetrain with hand-wound motors that were somewhat inconsistent. So when you built a motor, you had to match it with a power electronic module, which is the 3-phase inverter that drives the motor. Now you've got your drivetrain. And because of the inconsistencies in the construction process of the AC, the 3-phase AC induction motor, they had to match these power electronic modules with the motors. It was just too cumbersome, and it didn't lend itself to high volume production, so they eventually developed their own motor with a much more consistent performance without the variables, and their own electronics module. But so the DNA in Tesla really does go back to sports car.
Yeah.
The problem was they were selling them under cost. The company wouldn't be here today if they continued. They needed to make a sustainable family sedan.
Right.
And that's where the Model S came in.
Yeah. No, and to have what we have now, the Model 3 performance, Model Y performance, the Roadster coming, Model X.
So what we want them to do now is go back to their DNA and start making some performance cars.
Yes.
It's going to be a niche market. It's going to be much smaller, and it's not going to be as substantial in terms of revenue generating, but
the buyers will be there.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them make a hatchback too.
Okay.
I think that would be because Americans don't like hatchbacks as much as Europeans do. Mm-hmm. But there's absolutely a market out there I'd be one of the first ones in. If you had like a Model 3 performance hatchback, I'd get rid of the M2 right now. Mm-hmm. I'd get that immediately. So but you're right. They have to build cars that are going to sell to the masses so they can afford those fun projects down the road. And with companies like Porsche getting involved, I've heard that they're making their 718, like the Boxster body, that will become an EV in its next generation. Mm-hmm. So again, competition, creating that, it's nothing but good. It's for sure.
I agree. Well, I think we're going to wrap at this point. What I'd like to do is give the viewers your website to your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Want to tell us about that, Ben?
Yeah, so it's Gjeebs, Gjeebs. If you type that in, I should pop up. I think I'm at like 43,000 subscribers right now. I post videos every Thursday and Sunday at 10 a.m. Although I might move the Sunday videos up right now. Someone wrote the other day, gets involved with, messes up their NFL viewing. So maybe
okay. You're competing.
Yeah, so I don't want to compete with the NFL. I'll just move my time. But yeah, every Thursday and Sunday. And my videos are pretty loose. I do a lot of like a comedic viewpoint of owning my Tesla, and I'm very realistic about it. I love Tesla and what Elon Musk has created, but they have flaws like any other company, and I like to point that out and just have fun and show what it's like owning a Tesla and from an enthusiast standpoint. So yeah, no, I appreciate any subscribers. You could push that my way, and I'll do the same for you on my channel. I'll have it linked in the description. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me out. I learned a lot today, and I'll finally be able to provide that technical aspect that has long been asked for on my channel.
And come back anytime.
Yeah, no, I'd love to.
We have interesting projects here all the time, actually.
Yeah.
So our channel is Gruber Motors for your viewers.
Yep.
Gruber Motor Company is the name of the company. And we hope these podcasts are informative. And we'll continue to invite movers and shakers and keep this new transportation disruption to keep everybody informed. Our production manager is pointing at a piece of paper here, and I have to read this. He's very insistent.
Yeah. Put the gun
Did
down.
you notice that? Yeah.
Put the gun down.
All right, guys, don't forget to smash that like button, turn on that notification bell, and check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Gruber Motor Company. And I want to thank the production staff, even though you guys can't see them. They do a whiz-bang job here. And again, Ben, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.